Welcome to BCN's new series, What's Happening Now, a collection of informational and hopefully entertaining programs where we substantively speak to interesting and important people. Today we have the meeting after the meeting, the famous meeting where Hood and I get together and we talk commissioner stuff that we do on a regular basis. We've been doing for a long time together, and sometimes it's entertaining, sometimes it's not. But one thing's for sure, it's always informative. And it's great to have you here, Hood, once again.
I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, you are. You are a bright and sunny face. You're running for office, aren't you?
Yes, running for commissioner again.
How are you doing so far? The vote totals in your favor yet?
I hope so. We hope we win.
Oh, we pray you'll win. I'm voting for Hood. You should too. Hood, it was a great meeting. It was a long meeting. It went about 5 hours. It took us about 5 hours to upload this meeting, maybe half a day.
Wow, our meetings don't usually go that long because enough of the deals are made before the meeting so that you get in there and all these guys want to do is vote and leave. But there was several things on the agenda that just couldn't be walked away from.
No, we couldn't. What do you think was the largest item that we had, the most significant item that we had that meeting?
I think the one that the public is most interested in had to do with trash and trash pickups and the reversal on the new site on the south side of the river. A lot of that probably impacts more people than anything else. Although there were a lot of other things in there that involve what I call socialism, money giveaways that were important to me.
Yeah, government, even at the conservative level, is a social experiment. You were talking about trash. Trash is solid waste. Solid waste is one of the things government does. It's very important. Think about if you have nowhere to put your trash. What kind of government would you have? What kind of home would you have? What kind of life would you have? So the idea is, how do we make it more convenient for people to dispose of their trash, especially now while recycling is kind of on the blink. We're not doing that, by the way. We're not doing recycling, are we, Hood?
No, we're not doing recycling.
Some people think we're doing recycling. It is being picked up by the city as recycling. If they're taking it somewhere where it's being recycled, God bless them, more power to them. But if the county is getting these materials, it is not being recycled right now. So,
well, I think the problem, Stan, is not that we don't want to recycle.
We want to recycle.
There's not a market for these materials right now because the price of oil is so low.
Yes.
And also because the COVID virus has reduced the market for a lot of this stuff. There's no demand for it. So there's just not a market for it.
If you don't mind, could I speak to the recycling issue? Because since I had it on the agenda
Sure.
and really didn't have that much of a talk about it, I wanted to be brief. But my daughter and I, Meredith Deatherage Lachlan, are going on some field trips, and we're going to look at what some other people in other places are doing, and we're going to bring back some ideas. I'm hoping that we can get a big picture idea of how to recycle here in Beaufort County. It might be something we can do. It might be one of those things where it might be a little bit of socialism, but we got to figure out a way to dispose of the trash. And it's got to be done effectively, and it needs to be out of the landfill because we can't keep finding landfill. We can't keep filling up spaces. Hood, you have a great idea for recycling. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I don't mind talking about it. I don't think we will ever get to a true ongoing recycling program until we put a penalty or a tax or a charge or whatever you want to call it on certain items. One of the greatest recycling things that I know of is when I was a kid, soft drinks came in glass bottles. And you had to turn in your glass bottles in order to get more soft drinks, or you had to pay a new deposit on the bottles that you were taking. And the thing about it is, a lot of kids and adults, for that matter, went out and picked up bottles. There weren't that many to pick up, but if you had 2 bottles when I was a kid, that was a nice big candy bar. So that was a good reward for picking it up. You took it to the store, you traded it in, and they either gave you a dime or they gave you the candy bar you wanted. So until we get to that point, we're not going to be into true recycling. I'm not so sure that with paper products, which are biodegradable, that it's not possible to develop milk containers, for instance, ice cream containers, a lot of other things, in particular milk containers at the moment, because that comes in plastic jugs, that we can't develop materials that are biodegradable. Or that are recyclable. Because we're taking the most economically convenient way right now, and that is to buy plastic, put it in plastic, and then take the plastic out and landfill it. There's another theory behind waste, if you think about it. A child, for instance, has, if you will, a baby has zero waste when they come into the world, insofar as things to be recycled. What if we charge people a fee as a theory for items that had to go to the landfill? That would, for instance, have something to do with reducing the amount of waste to go to landfills. But I don't think that we will ever get there as a voluntary thing with recycling because of our tremendous economic and industrial efficiency in producing things at very low cost.
Yeah, and oil being as cheap as it is right now.
That's right.
Is a big part of it. But that's not always going to be the case. And my problem with the whole recycling conundrum is we have educated so many people. We have gotten them to think, I want to save this because I'm doing a good thing and it's staying out of the landfill. And so many people were recycling. Right now, I can tell you, it's really difficult for me to throw a bottle away, a big jar, big container. It kills me to have to do that. And I'm just thinking, what can we do? What can we do where it doesn't cost so much money? It's going to cost a little bit of money. It's going to cost somebody some money to initiate a recycling program that's going to be regional, and it's going to be a big idea, and it's going to keep stuff like this on shore, and we can reduce the amount of space we're going to need. And Hood's, I like your idea. I've got a different idea. Hopefully we can meet in the middle somewhere. But I'm hoping that some of the people in Raleigh and other county commissioners, all county commissioners in North Carolina deal with solid waste, by the way. So this is a conundrum they're all having. This is just not a Beaufort County problem. And I'm really hoping that the federal guys will figure out a way to dispose of this. There was a movie called Idiocracy. And a lot of you have seen it. It's not a great movie, but it has a wonderful premise. And it's what would America be 500 years from now when people intermarry and the more stupid among us have the most kids. And it's not a very pretty picture, but 500 years from now, they lived on right beside a mountain of waste that was just about as big as Mount Everest. And that was the kind of life they had. And I'm thinking that could happen sooner than 500 years if we don't correct a whole lot of things in this nation and in this state and here locally too, maybe a little bit. And that's why I guess we're county commissioners, right? We're very low-level politicians, but we deal with more stuff that affects you than probably any other politician, except for maybe your president. Health department. Hood is on the health committee. I mean,
on the Board of Health.
Board of Health. Sorry. I'm sorry. I said the wrong thing there. You're on the Board of Health, and what's the new initiatives coming out?
Well, I think we're really lucky with Jim Matson as the health director here, because he does a great job of keeping us informed. Those reports that you get on email, if you happen to get those, they look like they come from somewhere else. But it's actually Matson and his group that put them together. And then somebody else gets the credit for sending them out and all that sort of stuff. But Jim is very much up to date on what's going on with the virus and this sort of thing. We're lucky there. My disappointment in the health department, I'm on the Board of Health and I voted against it, was that we increased the county employees by one.
Yeah.
We hired another person in the health department to provide health services. The health services that are out there, we don't need to provide. That's socialism. We have private industry that provides health services. We've got Vidant Health. We've got doctors. We've got all sorts of people that provide this. So why is it necessary for the government to provide it? And the answer is, for the most part, even though they couch it a little bit differently, is they want to provide free health services for people. I'm not for that. I think that the health department is very legitimate when it comes to taking care of things that affect the mass of the population. but that we should get away from providing individual private health care. The mass of the population are inoculations, for instance, for the COVID virus, inoculations for influenza, which affect the whole of humanity, if you will. Inoculations for scarlet fever and all those sorts of things. But if we're going out and doing breast exams and some of the other things that we're providing at the health department, that's socialism.
You know, the position you're talking about, I understand that it's socialism. It is some grant money coming through for 4 years. It's going to be federal money. Hopefully, it'll do some good because the position is there to help people get off of their bad habits, which is all costing us all a lot more money when it comes to health insurance. But Jim Madison recommended it. He is doing a great job for us. And I would like to tell all the folks that are watching this video, Jim Madison comes and he speaks with us here at What's Happening Now, here on Beaufort County Now. And he keeps us informed on what's going on with COVID. We speak almost exclusively about COVID. And so do you want to talk about the positions a little bit more, or do you want to go talk about trash?
No, I'd like to back up to trash for a minute if I could, because one of the things that's going on, we need a long-range plan for these roll-off sites in Beaufort County. There's safety issues that have to do with these things. There's convenience issues, and almost all of the public is using them. We really haven't made improvements in a long time. There's potholes. And what I want the new board to do is to sit down and have a comprehensive open discussion about the future of our trash sites. For instance, we had to roll back something this month that was made. Frankie Waters made a motion last month that we open a new trash site with scales on the south side of the river and all this sort of thing. And really, nobody did any thinking about it, no discussion about how it would work. And what we discovered was that we had created a new classification for trash. And here was Republic, our contractor, saying, you've created a new classification for trash. We're not even supposed to be picking that stuff up and hauling it. So now here's our bill. You're going to pay us for doing this. And so we rescinded that because it was a mistake. But it's been a knee-jerk thing. And we need to sit down and be serious about this. And we need to come up with a set of rules as to how we're going to go about managing this. People deserve a paved driveway to get into these places, and they deserve to not get hurt while they're unloading trash.
For a number of months, I was chairman of the Solid Waste Committee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they let me be on that one committee because I guess it wasn't a very important committee yet. You and I both know it really is. Mm. And I guess as a kind of a joke or an afterthought, they made me chairman. And I did a good job as chairman. It's not hard to be chairman. You just got to remember where you are, unlike our chairman that we have that runs the board. But I digress. One of the things that we did was decide what to recommend to the Board of Commissioners. And I always said at some point, I really think the commissioners need to hear all of this. And I'm glad we disbanded the Solid Waste Committee. First of all, I don't have to go to those committee meetings. I like that. But I like the fact that we're talking. And that did run long. We talked about trash a lot. Mm-hmm. It probably occupied close to 40 minutes to an hour of our meeting.
But Stan, I made the motion that I made to disband it simply because nobody wanted to do anything of the 7 commissioners or the 5 commissioners, you and I did. Nobody wanted to do anything real. They wanted to talk about it, but when it came time to vote on action, they wouldn't vote. So we've got to disband, get rid of this thought that we can't do anything and take this bull by the horns and actually serve the public.
One of the problems I have with committee meetings, and I think I've talked about this before, but I'm going to reiterate it, is that the committee meetings are done in public with 3 commissioners. Minutes are taken. However, there's no camera. And in this time of COVID, people aren't coming to our committee meetings that much. We have a few people, but it would be much better if we did it at the commissioner meetings where we can record what is said, what is done, and that recordation is history.
Well, Stan, I think, too, the committee that you had, I think you had 2 commissioners on there that were trying to stack things their way. Mm-hmm. John Rebholz and Frankie Waters were out meeting with Republic without anybody knowing about it, trying to cut deals, make deals, and all this backroom stuff. And that is what caused a lot of the confusion that came to the public, that we were shutting down sites. And we weren't even into discussions long enough with anybody to even talk about anything. They think because they think of something that it's got to happen their way. And the board has to become open and discuss things openly and realize that every commissioner is going to learn something during those discussions, and every commissioner is going to contribute something during those discussions. Our board is not functioning as a board should function to actually serve the people of Beaufort County. And it hasn't for a long time.
For a long, long, long time. It was even tougher when you were there by yourself.
Oh, it was very bad.
Yeah. When I say by himself, Hood operated amongst 7 commissioners as the one conservative commissioner, although 3 of those other commissioners, acting as Republicans, had promised to be conservative, but it never panned out. It kind of ended at the first meeting. Usually ended when they picked the chairman, right?
Yes. When the 2 Democrats and the 2 insider liberal Republicans decided who the chairman was going to be, that's when all of the conservatism suddenly disappeared.
Just dissipates. And that's going to happen in about another month and a quarter, right?
Yes.
A December meeting, which is closer than we think. We're going to pick another chairman.
I'm hoping for great changes in this election.
Please vote, and vote conservative. There's only 3 conservatives running in this race. It's Hood, and you know how I feel about Hood. And then there's Tandy Dunn, and there's Randy Walker. They're all different. They have different levels of conservatism. They would all be helpful to the board. Pick one of them, and please vote. All right, Hood. Let's talk about the jail. That was a big discussion.
Well, the jail
We had a visit from the ACLU, didn't we?
Well, yes, we did, and that was quite a surprise. What happened in this thing was that Mrs. Mish, who could not be there, convinced the clerk to read her statement to the board. And she read the statement, and then this lady from the ACLU got up and started berating me and chastising me and criticizing me in great ways. Well,
you acted like she knew you, Hood.
That's right. She
knew of you.
She knew of me. She knew enough. But let me tell you, here's what the problem with this is. Number one, no county official should ever stand up and read a message from somebody else that's a member of the public. And that's what this woman did, was put credence and truthfulness in the appearance of in what she wanted to get in front of the board. And I'll be quite frank with you, everything that was said was lies. And I've told the board members that I will fight and I will object the next time a county employee gets up to read something in a public meeting from somebody outside. Send your buddy to read it. That's the way it's always been done in the past. Well, that was the lead-in for, the reason it had to be that way is that was the lead-in for the ACLU to get up and start saying the same thing. Now, what they were saying was that the food had bugs in it and flies in it. There were bugs running around all over the jail, and we had prisoners who were standing in sewage. It has to be a lie because the remodeled jail hasn't been open a month, and everything in there has been gone through and gone over 10 times. We spent over $2 million in it. The simple truth is our jail is in compliance with the state law, and the people that are trying to tell you that it's not are not mistaken. They know better. They're lying.
They are. I mean, it's sad. We are in compliance because when the jail was built, what was it, about 60 years ago?
Well, it was about 1980, early 80s, somewhere there.
Was that when it was?
It may have been in the late 70s.
Late 70s?
Yeah.
Okay. In the 50 years ago. It was in full compliance with the codes at that time. If they've changed, they've changed. But at that time, it was in full compliance. So as long as we keep this jail operational, it is in compliance.
It's just like your house. If your house was built according to the building code 50 years ago, you don't have to change it just because the building code has changed.
That's right.
Same thing's true with the jail.
Yeah, exactly. But it was interesting to have Hood explaining things. You know, our clerk is a very nice person, and I think she was trying to be accommodating, and she feels like she's a public servant, but she's our servant. We appoint the clerk, and we don't need anybody from the public using our appointee against us in any way, because we represent all the people of Beaufort County, not just that one.
It's one thing to have an issue and have a debate. It's another thing to lie.
Yeah.
Lying is a big deal with Hood.
Yeah. Oh, boy, it is. And you are an honest man. But you, oh, gosh, Hood, I got to bring it. I'm sorry I'm going to segue into this, but I am tired of hearing employees of Beaufort County, be they working for the sheriff's department or no, calling you a liar.
Well,
I'm tired of it.
I think most of the public knows who's telling the truth, and it's not hard to prove the truth. It's just that they should not be allowed to get away with that.
Do you want to talk anything about what happened the other night about with meeting with the sheriff and Charlie Rose coming in asking for us to approve 5 positions after we had already approved? We didn't, but the board approved raises amounting to a lot of money, and a lot of money. It was like $300,000.
I'm not sure the board really approved that. We never voted on it, Stan. It was put in front of us.
That's right. We didn't.
We never voted on it. But the sheriff took his money and spent it, and now he's wanting us to replace it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So go figure.
Yeah. Yeah. And we didn't vote for the budget anyway. It was too much money.
Yep.
I mean, if we were kings, if we had a majority, that would suffice to no end. Their spending would be a lot different in Beaufort County. There'd be some screaming, howling folks. I bet the sheriff would be even more mad than he is now.
Oh, he will be if we happen to have a conservative board. A lot of people's world is going to change when it comes to throwing away money.
Hood, are we defunding the sheriff's department?
Not in any way. He invented that when that budget was done. Defunding had never been thought of. The truth of the matter was he had 5 positions that weren't filled at that time, and they'd been open for over a year and a half. He couldn't fill them. So I don't know where he's going to get somebody from now. If we were to give him 5 positions, I'm not sure he could fill them. I mean, drive by the county parking lot and look at the number of sheriff's cars that are parked 24 hours out there that are not being used at all, and you'll get a feel for the fact that this is, he can't fill those positions. I don't think, even if we gave them to him.
There was money available for those 5 positions. There was plenty of money available, but that money went to raises, some of them 10, 11, 12% raises. Am I right?
More than that. $10,000 raise for somebody making $50,000, more than 10%.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then there was some added positions in IT positions, and I didn't want to add any IT positions.
I don't understand why they need all these IT positions.
To be honest with you, I may have mentioned this before, but our sheriff does not need any IT people. We have an IT department. If we need to beef that up a little bit to do his work for him, we can do that. There's nothing in the Constitution of North Carolina that says we have to have an IT department for the sheriff.
All right.
So, well, we're going to take a little break right now. When we come back, we'll be talking about maybe the sheriff. We might be talking about something else. And we're back. We were talking about the sheriff looking for funding for 5 positions. It didn't happen. Commissioners did not make any motion. No commissioner made a motion. It died for lack of a second. So the funding did not come. But not funding every want and whim of the sheriff is not defunding the sheriff's department. Let's talk about defunding. We're in this age of the council culture. The council culture thinks we can get by without law and order, without protection from those that would do us harm. Some of the things they say, when we have to send a person, a law enforcement officer, to deal with a family situation. Maybe we should really send a psychologist or maybe a social worker. That's not going to work. First of all, no psychologist or social workers are going to want to show up in those kind of situations. So this same mentality is causing folks to defund law enforcement agencies, the agencies that keep us safe. They're taking large sums of money away from the people that carry guns and enforce the law to give to the people that do community service work. There's a big difference. One cannot satisfy the other. So that's what defunding is. We don't believe that is going to work in Beaufort County. We believe that law enforcement will have to enforce the law at all times. And it's going to take money. When we give this sheriff plenty of money. We've given him more money than we've ever given Alan Jordan, who was a Democrat sheriff before this sheriff, a whole lot more money. So we hope that he will manage it and manage it well. He may even get all his positions next year. Who knows? But he's not going to get them this year. Not one commissioner stood up and said, I'm going to make that motion and we're going to put this to a vote. So it was fairly well unanimous, wasn't it, Hood? Okay, so we're done talking about the sheriff. What was another big issue for you at the meeting?
I don't know. Prompt me with an issue. I don't have one right now.
Well,
I can tell you one. I thought about the TV, extending the internet. I really have a problem with that because I'm a free business person, and if business won't support extending the internet and pay its own way, we shouldn't be doing it. But what the county did was took $500,000 and agreed to put it out for improving the internet, and actually put it in places that you cannot economically justify the presence of the internet. And I've heard all this palaver about it's necessary for our children and on and on and on this stuff goes. And I'm quite frankly, I'm against socialism, and that's socialism. And we can talk about the schools too when you want to. The school superintendent showed up.
Well, this is a good segue because the money put forth for the internet was because of this virtual learning conundrum we have here. And in defense of the commissioners that voted for it, and I did vote for it and against Hood in this manner, and we don't do this often. We don't split our votes often. But in defense of my vote, the money was coming from the federal government. That's all our money. But the money was there. It was there to use to get internet to households that normally would not get it. We don't know if it's going to be by line or it's going to be by Wi-Fi. But at some point, hopefully, more homes will get it in places. And I consider it infrastructure. But in some things, government does better than others. I mean, we have the electric memberships like Tideland. But I do celebrate you being a free market advocate. I am too. But so often the free market just doesn't work. It hasn't worked in healthcare now, has it, Hood?
Well, healthcare, if you had to apply the laws for gangsterism to the health industry, they'd all go to prison.
They would, even before Obamacare, which only exacerbated the problem.
So many politicians have tinkered with the health system is what the problem is, and we need to go back and retinker the whole system and get some competition and some free-based business going on.
The medical industry is a monopoly. It always has been a monopoly. It's a worse monopoly now. There's hospitals. You hear about hospitals going out of business. Hospitals have more money now than they've ever had. They waste so much money because they have poor management, disastrous management. Just today, a doctor talked to me and told me how bad it was. And he was emphatic. And he says, look, I'm a very inexpensive doctor. I try to manage well, and I try to help you get the least expensive drugs, right? And go to the least expensive people. And he refers me to somebody, and he does. And that's what our doctors should be like. And he's a liberal too, and we get along. I'm glad we're friends because I figure even if he's a liberal, he'll keep me alive. He did take an oath, though, right?
Yes.
But I digress. There were some other issues. There's one issue I wanted to talk about. There was a resolution I wanted to bring forward about the voting in North Carolina that seems to be getting fixed. Now, it's not 100% fixed, but I am satisfied that it will be fixed. I would have brought that resolution forth, but that night I didn't want to see yet another resolution I bring forth fail. Hood, we have commissioners on that board that make fun of the resolutions I bring forth.
Oh, yes.
And I understand it. I don't write these resolutions so that Joe Sixpack will understand them at every whereas and every therefore. I write them so that they can be sent to other people and they will have meaning and measure. I have to say this, our other commissioners have never written resolutions.
No.
I've noticed they have brought forth some, but they were written by other people. Frankie did bring one resolution. It was like a paragraph and a half, maybe two. And before it was over with, he took a resolution that I was going to vote for, even though he didn't vote for my resolution that same night that dealt with the same issue. But by the time he had finished with his own resolution, whittling it down so that he wouldn't make anybody angry, it had no teeth to it. You remember that resolution?
Yeah, I remember when that happened.
Yeah,
Yes.
It was about opening the businesses in Beaufort
Yeah.
County back in the first of the summer.
Frankie did what I call, it was based on personality. It wasn't based on the issue. And that you should never, as an elected official, you should never do business that way.
No.
A lot of times I vote for stuff that people that I don't like put up simply
me too.
because it's a good idea.
It's a good idea. And we work for the people.
Right.
We don't work for coalitions of politicians.
But, with what's going on in the presidential election, I saw today on Yahoo, I believe it was, that there are two states that they're very concerned about. Public officials in both states are doing absolutely nothing to make sure that the vote is secure. And these are states that they have made mass mailings of ballots, and they are doing absolutely nothing to make sure that the legitimate ballots are counted. And that's a great concern.
It is a great concern. And just this week, when I had some time, I watched the proceedings, the confirmation hearing for Amy Coney Barrett, who, my God, is outstanding. She's probably one of the smartest people to ever occupy a seat on the Supreme Court should she be voted as a justice. And if the Republicans do not put her there, the Republicans that don't vote for her, their careers are over. They're finished. Mm-hmm. And I would think any Democrat from a conservative area, if he doesn't vote for her or she doesn't vote for her, she's finished as well.
I'm thinking there may be a few smart Democrats that will surprise the rest of these people and actually vote for her, especially those that may be up for election and need the votes.
Oh, my gosh. It's time to take a break. Give me just a moment. Get a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. When we left, we were beginning to talk about the resolution that was never submitted to the people of Beaufort County to review or the commissioners. I knew it was going to fail, so I didn't want to suffer that indignity one more time. But what we've had here in North Carolina is an opportunity where the Attorney General of North Carolina could have done the right thing. The Governor of North Carolina could have done the right thing, and neither one of them did. Now, the State Board of Elections, in case you are not aware of this, is appointed by the governor. He even appoints the Republicans. So his appointed State Board of Elections elected to work with the Attorney General of North Carolina to settle a lawsuit in a lower court that would have changed the way we elect, even up at the federal level, Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, all the way down to the county commissioners. That would have all been changed just because of a lower court settlement that was not even reviewed by the judge. What happened was a day or two after this happened, it might have been a half a week, the President Pro Tem of the Senate, Phil Berger, along with Tim Moore, who was the Speaker of the House, filed injunctive lawsuits in federal court, which stopped that lawsuit. Now, there's some others that need to be stopped, but I hope and pray that here in North Carolina, we will elect appropriately. And what they did was they changed the way the absentee ballot was going to be handled. Most notably, that it could have been done in such a way with some certain restrictions or modifications, whatever, where effectively a person might not have to get a witness. And that is wrong. It had changed from 2 witnesses to 1, but it had to be a signature in the signatory spot. And that was going to change. Hood, what do you think about all that?
Well, what was going on here was a so-called sue and settle syndrome, and that is a liberal organization brings a lawsuit against a liberal body, which is the Board of Elections, which is run and appointed by a liberal governor with a liberal attorney general. What could possibly go wrong? All these guys are doing is getting in the back room, holding hands and saying, gee, we'll settle under everybody's terms. And the conservatives are left out in the dark. And that's what these guys were doing.
They just explained this perfectly.
They were rigging away so that when ballots came in, there was no way on election night to tell whether they were legitimate or not. The signature requirement, by the way, excuse me, Stan.
Sure.
The signature requirement, the law says you have to be able to read the signature.
Yes.
You have to be able to tell who signed it.
Yes.
And the date, and so that you can verify that that person actually exists. And in the past, when people were harvesting ballots, one person might sign 50 or 100 ballots. Mm-hmm. Can't do that anymore.
No. Effectively, and we've had some what's happening now discussions with Kelly Hopkins, and we talked about how things have changed, but it's going to be okay. We're still going to be protected. At this point, we would not have been protected here in North Carolina, and it would have been the fault of the State Board of Elections and our very, very liberal Democratic Socialist North Carolina Attorney General Josh Stein, who is running for office right now. Don't vote for this guy. And I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't vote for him. Because he settled in a lower court when he had the full weight of a general statute here in North Carolina on his side. He had the North Carolina Constitution on his side. He had the United States Constitution on his side. He had federal election law on his side. And yet he chose to settle a liberal case against the people of North Carolina. And it was brought by, let me see if I get this right, the North Carolina Alliance of Retired Americans affiliated with the AFL-CIO. They were going to control your election. And I had a resolution to the effect that Beaufort County should form and should become a party to an injunctive lawsuit if necessary. But thankfully, we were saved by the President Pro Tem and the North Carolina Speaker of the House. But I didn't present it because of what I knew was happening. And I knew, even if that hadn't happened, I don't think I would have been able to get our fellow commissioners to go along with it. They don't want to take a proactive stance on issues important to the people of Beaufort County on so many issues.
It's a weak board that doesn't understand the Constitution and has not been willing to take a stand. Can you consider what would have happened if one county had sued the governor over the shutdown?
Oh, yeah.
And then you'd probably have some more counties join.
They would have jumped in.
It is significant that not a single county in the state of North Carolina has sued the governor over this. And we have done this the exact reverse. You don't shut the state down and put everybody out of work. You quarantine those who are sick and allow the healthy to go to work. But this governor has seized power and seized control, and he is ruining our economy and doing a lot of damage to a lot of people, and some of them will never recover.
Never recover. Just this week, the World Health Organization, the WHO, has reversed their stance on shutting down economies and individuals and creating a society that is dysfunctional. Now, it might work well for the Democrats in this election. I'm sure it will. It's all Donald Trump's fault. All of this is Donald Trump's fault. But now, it is better not to shut down per the World Health Organization, which is something Hood and I have said since the very beginning.
That's right.
I mean, we're not going to get herd immunity by shutting down.
Well, the liberals have seized the authority to do a lot of terrible things to us. The school superintendent came to us on our last meeting, and was so proud that he was serving 2 meals a day to the children of Beaufort County. Now, that is a condemnation against the parents of this county that they are not able and will not feed their children. Consider the amount of WIC, the amount of welfare, the amount of everything else that there is out there. And this guy is proud of the fact that he is adding more socialism by feeding more children during a time when they have trouble to even get out and get the meals. And I'm hearing some terrible stories about those meals, and that is the kids are not eating them, they're taking them home, and the parents are eating them. This is a disaster. It's a socialist disaster that we really need some strong leadership to go up against this, because all that the school superintendent wants to do is to make the parents of this county dependent on him.
Well, in defense of the school superintendent, he has got a bad hand. We do have some terrible parenting here in Beaufort County. You got to admit that.
Well,
and that's what he's got to deal with.
That may be true, but when your kids come to school emaciated and hungry, we've got a Department of Social Services to go after you for that kind of stuff. The remedy is there.
It is there. But the problem is the remedy is coming down from Raleigh, and they're telling him he has to do this or should do this. And once, years ago, you said a school board for a county. No, a school board for a school.
Yeah.
School board for a school.
Yeah.
And to take that one step further, and I think you took this one step further, it would be good if you would have a school board for a school answering to a school board for a county.
That's correct.
And the state government stay out of it as much as possible.
That's what we need to go to. The state government doesn't need to be involved in this as heavily as they are now. It's all about control from a liberal governor. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Vote for Dan Forrest. Get this guy Cooper out. Do not vote for Cooper for governor, because you're going to have more of what you got now, and that is more disaster. We have not seen the pain from the shutdown yet.
No, we haven't. I'm getting a lot of complaints from a lot of people now. There's people hurting terribly out there. And for people that want to do business, you got to find people who got some money to do business with. And it's tough to find them.
Yep.
It's not a lot of money out there. Hood, we're in the throes of a national election that could go either way. It looks terrible right now for the president in the polls. I would like to say one thing that's been said by many other people, but it looked terrible 4 years ago at this exact same time. In fact, the Access Hollywood tape came out about a week earlier in reference to the time periods between the two election cycles. So the president is probably not doing as bad as the polls are suggesting. In fact, the polls are actually showing him coming up a little bit. Now that he's over his COVID, he's out there campaigning. The man looks like he goes from COVID and he's worn down. I mean, he was worn down before the COVID.
That's right.
And he's like had a week of rest. And he looks reinvigorated.
Well, he does. And what I would tell people is I think these high counts for Biden, and they're trying to tell people don't bother to vote. It's over with. And what I would say to everybody is vote. Please go vote. Don't listen to these people. Go and vote.
Vote if for no other reason to make a statement that you're going to do what is right, and you're going to put the right man in office that's the smartest and has done a fine job as president. I mean, let's face it, for the first 3.5 years, he was under investigation, and then you had the fake impeachment. And that was going on during the COVID outbreak, where Congress was impeaching the president every day, going to get rid of him. And so the president did the best he could under those circumstances, and Congress did nothing.
I just came from the first day of early voting. And at about 3:30 this afternoon, we've had a line of 40 or 50 people out the door all day on the first day of early voting. There are a lot of people that are voting, but the bad news is some of the people that were there saying, I think this is at least 50% Democrats that are out to vote. So if you're a conservative voter and you're a Republican, please go and vote. Call me, call somebody. If you need help getting to the polls, we'll get you to the polls.
Well, that doesn't bother me too much because I think the president will pull in 20, 30% of Democrats.
Well, I think he will, but they were thinking it was a liberal vote, just the guys that were just standing around over there. Whether they're right or not, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Get out and vote.
Well, it can be interesting to see how it all turns out. I will tell you this. If a pollster calls me, I don't have time to talk to him. I've got a lot going on. Thank you for coming again. We're going to do this a month from now, me and the Hood, and we're going to have a lot more to talk about. See you then.